It's extraterrestrial. It's me talking to a computer surrounded by absolute silence. Oh, Dorota, thank you very much. The contact has been established. Hello. Hello. All right. Hello, Yusuf. Hello, Marta. All right. Good to see you guys. Good to see you live. Good to see you helloing. Good to see you interested in our part 3 webinar devoted to new core curriculum. It's a great thing to see that the new core curriculum can be more attractive than the weather outdoor. Oh, the question obviously is what weather you have there. It's sunny here in Poland, in Warsaw. What's the weather in where you are? Sun, rain? All right, also sunny. So I'm clapping my hands for everybody who's with me. Oh, beautiful in Zakopane. Oh wow, sunny but windy. All right, Wielkopolska also sunny. All right, so Warsaw sunny as well. Though I'm in a funny location. I mean, I'm honestly surrounded by by 100% silence. Because on my right there is the Powązki military graveyard. On my left there is the civic Powązki graveyard. In front of me, there is the main headquarters of ZUS. So as you can imagine, the 3 locations don't produce much noise at weekends. All right, guys, so good to see you live. My name is Kasia Ścibor, and for the last, now nearly 6 years, I've been the teacher trainer and the teacher training coordinator for Pearson in the Central and Eastern Europe region. That's a pretty demanding job, let's face it, but it's also superbly rewarding. I mean, all the contact I get with teachers from Poland, from Russia, from Serbia, from the Nordics, it's just incredible. It's good to learn. It's like that we are very similar, despite the different geographical locations, and it's good to see that there is some common core to what it means to be a teacher, and what it means in practicality to function as a teacher. Guys, you will learn about me a bit more as we go through the session, and I hope to learn something more about you as well. Hopefully you stay with me, you keep using chat, you'll keep asking questions. By the way, I try to talk to you, go smoothly through the session, and to keep my one eye on the chat section. There is a support person with me, so if there's any technical issue, Agnieszka will be able to help. When it comes to more metaphorical questions, let's agree that after finishing the session, I'll try to go quickly through chat, and if there are any questions that I'll be able to answer, I'll try to address them then. All right, because talking to you, making sense in the chat session, reading and answering, it's this would be a bit too much on my plate. So, guys, starting maybe with a quick wake-up quiz. Ready? All right. So the seemingly easy question is, what is the city? Can anybody recognize the city here in the picture? All right, somebody says London. All right, London again. All right, London for the 3rd time. All right, and the third London is even capitalized. That's true. All right, this one was pretty easy. Just, you know, just to give you a fair start. What do you think this city is? Oh, that's a bit more complicated. All right. All right, somebody says Delhi. All right, that's the correct continent. That's true. That's not Delhi, though. All right, second time Delhi. Bangladesh, close. It's not really Bangladesh. It's not Delhi. That's actually the biggest airport in Asia. Not Shanghai. There's the big Buddha, and have a look at the tuk-tuks. Tuk-tuks are the small means of transport. I'm pointing at one now. All right. So it's not Dubai. That's Singapore. No. Buddha, tuk-tuks, elephants. That's actually, oh, nobody knows the answer. All right. So a point for me. Bangkok. Well done, Joanna Dudka. You are the winner of this part of the competition. It is Bangkok, ladies and gentlemen. Right? I thought that tuk-tuks might be of some help. Joanna, really congratulations. All right. So honestly, I chose London because we are a group of ELT teachers. Then I decided to choose Bangkok because this was my last year holiday, wonderful last year holiday. And the third city also bears a personal connection for me. What is the city then? Penguins, beaches, helicopters, two mountains. One of the mountains with an absolutely even top, a non-summit mountain called the Table Mountain. Any ideas what the city might be? That's the last city I'm asking about, just to give you a chance to lead me into a personal personal comment. The Table Mountain, penguins. Somebody says so there's somebody thinking. All right. Difficult, you say. All right. So I'll tell you that the song Waka Waka Yeah was somehow connected with the city. Cape Town, wonderful. All right, Agnieszka Gołębieska is the winner this time. Agnieszka, congratulations. It is Cape Town, and I chose Cape Town for the third city because when talking to you about the new core curriculum for Poland, I will be showing you some examples from South Africa. South Africa is where I happened to spend some time working charity with children outside Cape Town, actually in a community called Frigrant. That's a community of real poverty, actually, community of people who managed to get to South Africa, but have absolutely no status there, and their children are facing serious educational problems. So surprisingly, I'll be talking about those Cape Town cases to illustrate you certain truths about working with children, about working with young learners, truths which will hopefully give you some inspiration for implementing what the new core curriculum puts up on our shoulders. So we've been already to all the cities you are at. We've already been at Warsaw, where I'm sitting. We've been to London. We've been to Bangkok. We've been to Cape Town. And with the title of this session and with the name of a certain river, the Rubicon River, I'm taking you this time to Italy. So in 49 before Christ, Julius Caesar crossed a certain river, saying "Alea jacta est," meaning the die is cast. So he's taken a step, and there was no taking the step back. He just had to follow on his actions. And I decided to choose this phrase and this metaphor because we, in a way, also crossed our own Rubicon. That was on the 14th of February this year, when the Minister of National Education in Poland actually signed the new curriculum. The new curriculum, which was later on published on the 24th of February. And this is the document which proves to be our Rubicon. This is the river we've crossed, and there are some consequences, and we are getting ready for the consequences and for the new, bright, or at least very different future. There's been a lot of talk, there's been a lot of noise in the media, in our families potentially, definitely in our colleague groups about the document, but that's normal. That there is some noise when the change comes, because I don't know how familiar you actually are with the psychological aspects of change. When the change comes, it's absolutely natural for all us, for all human beings, to react according to a certain pattern, a pattern that has several steps. The first step and the first reaction when we face any kind of change, it's negation. That's the moment when we say, no, I reject to accept the change. It can't be happening to me. I go on strike, it's not happening to me, I'm ignoring the change. That's similar to a situation I've witnessed once in my life, a pretty bloody situation. Namely, I did happen to see on a walk a man walking with a dog and a little lady walking with a cat in the very same park. None of the walkers actually noticed the other one, and the animals met at a corner. The brief encounter ended unfortunately with the dog biting lethally the cat. What was, it's like in all this tragic situation, what was interesting for us was actually the response to the situation the cat owner adopted. The cat owner said, and I'm quoting, "I don't care. The cat has to be back in 5 minutes." And and she was pretty stubborn about it. It's like, I've given you, a deadline. I've set the deadline, and I expect my cat to be back live in 5 minutes. That's the classical response to we have for change. That's negation. It's not happening. I'm ignoring it. I'll survive. I'll just shut my eyes. I'll shut my ears, and I'll just keep waiting. The second stage that we come through when facing change, that's anger. That's, we've tried to ignore the situation, didn't work. So we start becoming angry. We start looking for the guilty ones, because it's definitely not us. It must be the school director, it must be my mom, it must be the neighbor, it must be the Minister of the Education. We become seriously angry. Step number 3 is resistance. That's when we start saying, all right, so things are happening this way, all right, let them go. I'll just continue the way I used to be. And you take sort of a mental sick leave. So think, people are trying to do something with the situation, and you are on an official sick leave. You might be coming to work, you might be functioning on the physical level, but mentally you are absent from the situation. You are on a sick leave. Is that's the resistance stage. What comes next? It's fitting in. We sort of discover after negation, anger, resistance, that these three don't really work and don't really help us with the situation. So we sort of subconsciously, subliminally figure out that it might be better for us if we start fitting in terms of, all right, we'll follow the rules. I have to do it 6 times instead of 4 times a week. All right, I'll be doing it 6 times a week, but there's no heart in it. You start acting mechanically. You start just fitting in on the physical level. That's stage number 4. Then comes stage number 5, and that's the final stage. That's the stage when we actually come into terms with the new situation. The shock is gone, the anger is gone, the resistance is gone, and we are sort of ready to open our eyes and to decide to have a look, to decide to what the new situation is, to check what the new situation is, and we start doing something. And all these 5 stages are stages we as teachers have to go through. That's our psychology, that's our human psychology. We have to go through all these 5 stages. Also when facing the changes in the educational system, like it or not. The difference between different teachers being at the same situation is that some of us might still be on stage number 1, that's negation. So those teachers still believe nothing's happening. They keep ignoring the situation. Some of us might be on the resistance stage, so they're on this mental sick leave. And I presume, since we all are here, we are already on at the acceptance stage. So we know that things are changing, the change is unavoidable. It's high time we started checking actually how the stage works. So this is the psychology of handling a change. When you have a look at all those stages, which, by the way, in Polish, when you read the first letters of those stages, they come to a nice word, which is zgoda, is the agreement, the final agreement to the change. When you think about yourselves, about negation, anger, resistance, fitting in, and acceptance, Normally, when something changes in your life, private life or professional life, which stage is the stage that you have tendency to get sort of stuck on? Some people very quickly pass the negation stage, but they sort of get stuck on the anger phase. That's my mom, being honest. She's like, she'll be walking angry about something she has no control upon, and she'll be, walking angry about it, and she'll be angry and angry and angry for days and days, and she can't sort of move forward. All right, there are some more other anger people. All right, Katarzyna says she jumps straight to the acceptance phase. Kasia, good for you, I would say. Passing quickly through the 4 initial non-productive stages and ending up at the final one. Lucky you. All right. Barbara also says she's the acceptance stage. I tend to be like my mom, the anger stage. So there's the moment when I lit up, and then I start, after lighting up, I start actually thinking more reasonably. All right, there are some resistance people as well, and acceptance people. All right, guys, whatever stages you have tendency to get stuck on, these are just transitory stages. So if it's not acceptance that you go quickly through, you just, as a psychological piece of advice, you just have to watch yourselves. And when you get at your weak or favorite stage, which is anger in my case, you just have to monitor yourselves and give yourselves a push to move towards acceptance quicker, not to waste your time. So when you finally, all right, there are some people writing that they tend to fit in. All right, so fit in is just one step away from acceptance. So when we finally all arrive to the acceptance stage, the question we usually ask ourselves is, how does the new situation work? So a tiny quiz for you. You can see a series of cogs, which represent a new situation of whatever kind. And the first cog, as you can see, spins to counterclockwise. My question is, how does the final cog spin? Clockwise or counterclockwise? The first one goes counterclockwise. Then there's the second, third, fourth, etc., etc., etc. In which direction does the final cog go? All right, Joanna says clockwise. Do we have any other opinions? Agnieszka says depends which one. I mean the very last one. When you follow the mechanism, when you follow the connection of the cogs, the last one would be the one on the bottom left-hand side. So does the bottom left-hand side cog go right, go clockwise or counterclockwise? All right. Okay. Then Agnieszka says clockwise. So I have 2 for clockwise. And then I have the rest of the people, all right, 3 for clockwise, and the rest of the people saying, oh, come on, you can't be solving quizzes like this at 10:15 on Saturday. All right. All right, I've just blown somebody's mind. All right, but yes, it is clockwise, true. Well done. Guys, this is what happens actually. I'm sorry, for throwing so many quizzes up on you. I just try to, make sure it's you also, doing some mental work along my talking. So this is, guys, what comes after the acceptance stage, or at the acceptance stage. We start looking around, we start checking what the new situation actually is, and we have to work out in which direction the cogs go, which cogs are smaller, which cogs are bigger, which are more important, which are less important. Because without, understanding the mechanics of the new situation, there's no way we can actually work out how to function in the new situation. And the cogs, the metaphorical cogs for the new educational situation, that's obviously the new core curriculum. The new core curriculum, which I would say should be read by everybody. And that's not that much reading, because there's the front page, that's page 1, which states what kind of document it is, who published it and when. Then pages 2 to 10, these are pages devoted to kindergarten. So pretty interesting in terms of learning what skills children build before they come to you, before they come to the first grade of the primary school. But still, if somebody is not too interested about the kindergarten stage, there are 8 pages to skip, and then pages 11 to 59 are actually the pages devoted to primary school grades 1 to 3. You might say, how come there are only 8 pages for kindergarten and so many pages for primary school? There are more pages for primary school, grades 1 to 3, for a simple reason, because I would recommend reading not only the sections devoted to English or any other language. It is a formal obligation now for us all to know the new core curriculum for all the subjects, and that's stated openly in the document, that every teacher of a foreign language is absolutely obliged to be familiarized with what's happening or what's planned and what is currently happening for other educational areas. And these are grades 1 to 3. That's, that there's no division into separate subjects. The approach in grades 1 to 3, that's actually sort of one big educational blend. When children are served certain content as a unity, with no stress upon separate classes, with more stress on the content and the final outcome. So please spend the time and read pages 11 to 59, and I'll show you in a moment why it's worth spending those few hours on studying all the educational areas for grades 1 to 3, not just the areas which you might consider strictly relevant to you as English teachers. So we are on webinar number 3. Webinar number 3, following 2 brilliant sessions delivered by Amanda Davis and Małgorzata Tiurka in April and March. The first one focusing on, and here you can see again a quote from the new core curriculum. The first webinar was 100% focused on multisensory teaching. Now you can see why. Because this is one of the areas that the core curriculum makes a serious step in our educational practice. If you happen to miss the multisensory session, please come back to the recording. There's plenty of practical ideas. There is both theory and practice. There are already exercises, there are already tasks to take. So please feel welcome to come back to this one. And a tiny question. You can see in the picture. You can see what actually in the picture? What can you see in the picture? Eggs. Somebody says eggs. Oh, right. Surprise eggs. Bingo. Here we are. So these are these plastic tiny eggs coming from the Kinder Surprise eggs. Yeah, here they are. And I brought them here as an extra comment or an extra idea to feed you with in connection with the multisensory session delivered by Amanda. So Amanda walked through several ideas and exercises, and I would like to say that as teachers, we don't have to do things only focused on the visual, focused on the tangible. There are also ways of of addressing other senses from time to time, naturally, but there are ways to address other senses in the class. So have you ever done anything in your classroom that stimulated the noses of your students? Have you ever done any kind of exercise that focused on the nose? No, never, no. I know, it's not the biggest part of our body. It's not the most important one, I presume. All right, Halina says, oh, wonderful. Halina says, yes, with food. All right, so my idea actually for stimulating noses once in a while, if not once or twice in the initial educational grades, is an idea which comes with these tiny things. So those plastic eggs can be filled with whatever pleases you. So if you are silent for a moment and I shake, you'll hear a noise. Can you guess? It's like, yeah, I know it's not the nose, it's the ears for the beginning, but it's like, what might be inside the egg if it produces a noise like this? What might be inside? Beans. Somebody says beans, all right. Something hard, beans. Pebble stones, beans. No, right. So plastic stones, somebody says. Tic Tacs. Sweets. Frozen peas. All right, sweets. All of them make perfect sense. What I put inside are actually coins here. And with those plastic surprise eggs, you can play a very nice memory game with your children. So you can have a set of those, and you can play them as a surprise. So you can bring them already, you know, filled in, and you can start asking your students what is inside, sort of eliciting all those frozen peas, sweets, Tic Tacs, coins, pebbles, etc. Then you might open the egg and show your students what is inside, all right, showing them the actual tiny coins, all right, and you can produce with your class a piece of paper with information what actually is inside. You produce 2 eggs of the same kind, and those 2 eggs come to the egg basket or to the egg holder. You can have another one filled with matches, for example. Okay, that's the second pair, third, fourth pair, etc. What your students do, they can play a memory game when they shake the eggs, they have to guess what's inside, and then they have to find the second element from the pair. All right, that's a simple egg memory game, which can be adopted actually to stimulate the sense which, as you've admitted openly, is not that's often stated. Here's the nose. Agnieszka is right, asking where is the nose. The nose comes here. The nose is actually a variation on the very egg game, the egg memory game. So you can fill the eggs with coffee, tea, garlic, chopped onion, soap, whatever things you know are smelly and distinctively smelly. What you have to do then, you have to pierce the top of the egg and put piece of scotch on it. And then when children play the memory game, they don't shake the egg, but they take off the scotch and they sniff, guessing what's inside. Coffee, tea, garlic, onion, soap. I don't know. Is there anything else you could potentially put into the egg to make the children smell and guess what the content is? Any ideas for something smelly, distinctively smelly? All right, lemon, that's a good one. Yeah, orange skin. Orange, yeah. Cinnamon, all right. Pepper, wonderful. Yeah. So as you can see, when it comes to arranging our classes, cheese, that's true, and some, you know, vanilla, and some, when it comes to cheese, you know, Some of cheeses could be lethal, or can fill your class with the smell for the rest of the day. So be careful. But guys, as you can see, I'm just trying to tell you that when it comes to focusing on the multisensory, it's not just the eyes, it's not just the ears, it's not just the hands, it's also the nose that can be stimulated from time to time, to bring a variation. And why always to do food products with flashcards or with pictures? Why not to do them through the nose from time to time? So I hope that's an idea which will give you an excuse to to buy at least six chocolate eggs, and then to surprise your students by asking them to close their eyes and breathe deep through the nose. All right, that's just an extra idea to the multisensory. Oh, somebody says I can imagine the air in the classroom. If there's too much garlic, I can imagine it too. Guys, that was just just a brief comment and an extra idea for the multisensory webinar you did with Anda on in April. Then there was the second webinar with Małgosia Tetiurka, which focused on the Magnificent 13. So the 13 plainly stated topics which we have to cover now when teaching English in grades 1 to 3. The appearance of the list when we have things stated so straight away came first as a shock from what I remember. And then there was plenty of discussion whether my course book covers all the areas, whether my course book doesn't, whether there have to be some changes, etc., etc., etc. So the general conclusion was that the suggested topics are nothing new. Some of them were sort of broadened by saying my place of living instead of my home, my family, my city. But otherwise, they were covered by the course books you work with and you'll be working with. And now with the Ministry of Education already approving the course books, there's no further point for keeping the discussion going on. If the ministry gives them their approval, if they know the yes, it means the course book actually fulfills all the requirements, meeting also covering also all the 13 topic areas. Still, even if you are familiar with the topic areas, I would recommend coming back to Małgosia Tetiurka's April webinar. When she goes through each of the topic area, giving you plenty of ideas how to use puppets, how to use pieces of paper, how to use different preps when working through those areas. All right, so those working with New English Adventure can see that the book has already been approved by the ministry. We are very happy to inform you about this. So for those knowing the course book and wishing to continue with the same title, the big exercise now is to spot the difference. Namely, will there be or is there any difference between New English Adventure the way you know it and New English Adventure as a title which will be adopted for classes for the just coming first grade. So if we are spotting the difference, could you please spot 3 differences between the pictures, the ones in the picture on the left and the picture on the left and the picture on the right? Spotting differences is checking whether people are still there. All right, there's 1 bird. There's all right, 1 bird, 2 bushes, 3 foxes. All right. All right, I can see the chat section informs that there's plenty of people typing in very quickly their answers. All right, birds, foxes, bushes, that's true. All right, so there are some differences. All right, in the third one, an owl, that's true. Birds, bushes, foxes. All right, there are differences and you can see the differences. And also when you open the just approved version of New English Adventure, for the new primary school, you'll notice that there are some differences. There are some tiny differences visible, especially starting from level 2, when we developed a new kind of section, and I'll be revealing in a moment what kind of section it is. Whereas starting from level 1, you can see here there is an extra new thing available for each student. Namely, there are 15 cards based on the memorize, revise, and recall pattern. How does this work? So these are extra worksheets which allow students to recall the vocabulary they know, to practice it, but also finishing with something more complicated. If you have a look here, you can see that we are not asking here to actually write the names of the items students can see, though they've just practiced the names for elephants, zebras, and other noses and other objects. In the final section, we ask them to actually start thinking logically and to take the items that they've just covered and to perform a higher level thinking based on them. That's because the new core curriculum states that it's what we aim to do in the first 3 grades is actually we aim at stimulating in our students logical thinking, concluding, comparing, contrasting, seeing things happening. And just to show you that you as teachers are fully aware of this obligation, and that probably you work very hard on implementing this logical algorithmical thinking within also your English classes, I would like to present to you materials which were shared with me by Alexandra Baron. I don't know if the teacher is today with us. I hope Alexandra is with us today. Alexandra is from Warsaw and she's a primary teacher at Szkoła Podstawowa numer 307 here in Warsaw. And we came last week in touch accidentally, and I was amazed by the material she shared with me. She's one of the enthusiasts who always, goes the extra mile and does the extra thing. And what you can see is actually a competition Alexandra organizes in her school for first graders, second graders, and third graders separately, because what you can see now is the sheet, competition sheet for the first grade. Here comes the competition sheet for the third grade. And this is World Championship in solving English crosswords and puzzles. And guys, this is exactly what the new core curriculum keeps asking for. It's asking you as teachers to give your students a chance not just to memorize new vocabulary, not just to point to objects not just to making your students able to label things. The new curriculum is asking you to stimulate your students to start bringing all this vocabulary to a higher comprehension level. So for grade 2, if you have a look at exercise number 4, for example, that's the case when students already know words as triangle, circle, rectangle. And what is so cleverly and fantastically designed here is actually sort of a Venn diagram. And when certain numbers stay in the overlapping areas of different figures, and by reading and performing extra logical thinking, students are able to work out which number is looked for, is meant. Because we know that this number is in the rectangle, it isn't in the circle, it's in the triangle, and its number. And here you have to, take your English knowledge, bring it to a higher logical thinking level. You have to, use it actively, and this is the and again produce your answer in English. So I just couldn't resist the temptation to share the material designed by Alexandra, because it not only shows plenty of passion of the teacher, but it also shows you exactly what the core curriculum keeps asking for. It's like, please teach your students logical algorithmical thinking. And you might we might have a tendency to think, oh yeah, but that's an English class. That's not maths. Yeah, that's not that's not numbers. Still, it doesn't mean that we have to cross this element of the new core curriculum requirement off our list. It doesn't work. It doesn't work this way. And as you can see, there are ways to actually fulfill this obligation as well. All right. So when it comes to yet another new curriculum obligation, it's about an area I'm especially creative and sensitive to. That's the area when it comes to bringing or working on children's curiosity. That's about building an interest in children, interest and respect towards other cultures, other languages, other faiths, other nationalities. That's an area that I sort of specialize in. And what you can see in the picture, that's actually me in Cape Town, and the tiny boy watching so intensely the picture I'm showing on my camera. The boy's name is Massive, and Massive is an incredible boy because Massive believes that he can lift absolutely anything. I don't know how his parents knew about this future passion of his, giving him the name Massive. But he is absolutely passionate about lifting massive things. And I remember my first meeting with Massive when he ran towards me and he said, "You are tall. I still can lift you." And the tiny boy actually grabbing my leg and and sort of trying to lift me straight away. That's a boy that I happen to work with, and that's a boy who had as we come into closer relationship, immense interest into Poland. Surprise, surprise. That's probably because of me being there and me admitting to coming from Poland. He was just amazed by everything we eat here, by the way we live, by how we walk, by how we celebrate our feasts. So. Just to share with you a few pictures, to give you the background of what kind of conditions Massive and his family used to live in. That's actually the backside of the backyard. That's the local supermarket. That's from time to time they would go to have their haircut. That's the local barber shop. And a visit to this local barber shop was the thing, because it meant you did have some extra money to spend, which doesn't happen in the Fragrant community that often. So as you can see, people in the community have other priorities than occupation. The priorities would be feeding their children, making sure there is some basic hygiene that we stick to. And that's also what kindergartens and primary school centers focus on. That's feeding and cleaning the children. That's whole Monday, as I was there, was spent on feeding and cleaning the children, and then whole Friday was devoted to the same two activities, because he knew that many of those children won't eat anything during the approaching weekend, and they have no contact with soap. So we have 5 days to spend with the children. 2 of the days are actually out of any teaching curriculum in terms of formal education, because you have to feed them and you have to clean them after the weekend or in advance before the weekend. Still, within this honestly and poor community, I one day discovered that parents of the children that I work with somehow managed to find these items somewhere in Fragrant, somewhere in Cape Town. I have no idea where they came across these tea towels, but I was amazed, knowing that each penny, knowing that each coin is of super value for them. They still, took the extra time, took the extra effort, and spent the money on those Poland-related items. And I'm not showing this to you just because I know I'm recalling some sweet memories of mine, or because I'm boasting about being here or there. I'm just trying to show you a certain trend, a certain pattern. Namely, we have a poor community of people, as distant from Poland as you can imagine. And if it wasn't probably for me, they would never hear about the name Poland as such. And they would never be bothered about about us being somewhere up there in Europe. Still, because of my presence and because of me sort of being able to break the ice between us, they and their children developed certain interest in me. And I thought, all right, so sweet. You have the Polish tea tower with the Polish city names. But this wasn't the end. Just after a few days, I started noticing that children playing, during their breaks, children playing when queuing for the lunch, they modified the simple nursery rhyme that you are probably all very well familiar with. That's the seesaw, seesaw, up and down, which is the way to London town. Do you know it? Do you sometimes use it with your children? Do you? Don't you? Seesaw, seesaw, up and down, which is the way to London town. One foot up, the other foot down. This is the way to London town. No? No? All right, that's a very popular one. And I would have those children, but also British children, using the rhyme pretty often. So if you haven't used it so far, now you know it. You can go ahead using it. What the children would do very often, they would, and that's why the picture comes here. They would take the core from the paper roll. That's what you can see in the middle, and 2 pieces of string. They would put the hard core on the strings, and each child would keep in their hands 2 ends of the 2 strings. And when saying seesaw, seesaw, up and down, the children would just pull on the strings. When I say they would, in other words, they would make the core of the toilet paper move, because one child would stretch their hands, whereas the other one would at the same time would put the hands together. So the core of the toilet paper actually moves on the string. So you have seesaw, seesaw, up and down, which is the way to London town. And they have, they have the rhyme, the rhythm dictated by the nursery rhyme, and they have, something in their hands, something moving. But one day, surprise, surprise, I discovered that they no longer say which is the way to London town. Surprisingly, they started saying which is the way to Gdańsk town, which is the way to Warszawa town, which is the way to Sopot town, because these were the cities that they could see on the towel, on the tea towel. So I was honestly amazed. I thought they made me practice the names from the tea towel just for the sake of hearing something strange. But no, they learned them by heart, and they actually brought them into their own place. So which is the way to Warszawa town, which is the way to Sopot town, which is the way to Krakow town. The interest didn't stop there, and that's not something kindled by me. That's all these things happened just because they had curiosity in me. They wanted to learn something about me, my background, my family, the cities I spend my holidays in, etc., etc. So we had another wonderful and pretty well adaptable to our English classes activity. So we made a paper roll train. Each child, had we had the paper roll, the core of the paper roll. We cut it in half. Each child could decorate the half however they wanted. So there were, various colors. Boys rather darkish, girls pretty pinky, and each piece of paper represented all right, I can see somebody posting a link probably to something similar. So each of those pieces of paper represented a wagon. We put the wagons together with the pegs, And we traveled. It's like they actually made me travel. So it's like the child whose wagon was in front could dictate where we go. So seesaw, up and down, which is the way to Warszawa town. And we would all go choo towards Warszawa, where I would have to, to let them know something about Warszawa. So, and basic information like Warszawa is where I live. So my family is in Warszawa, my home is in Warszawa, or a picture from Warszawa would be sufficient. Then the first wagon would go with the pack towards the end, and the new leader of the car could dictate where we go. So it would be seesaw, up and down, which is the way to Zakopane town, all right? And again, around the class, we would go choo towards Zakopane. And believe me, that's the interest that came from the children. That's the way they ask me, to share my background, to see where I come from and what my culture actually stands for. And that's an incredible thing actually to see in children whose minds and stomachs could be bothered, by other things than a far away country they are likely never to visit. But no, it's like because of the close connection, I could see a real interest in what's Polish and in what's me related. There was a second moment during my charity work there that I observed a similar level of interest in the children and a sort of self-invested interest. That's when we worked with a series of readers that was prepared especially for South African children. That's a series of Pearson readers called Vuma. Vuma is an African word which stands for optimism, energy, and that's a funny word because that's a word which is shared by really many African languages. So the series is called Vuma, and they were designed to actually reflect the lives of children living in Cape Town or in South Africa. So the kind of stories the children could see are stories which are likely to happen to them. And this is when the explosion of interest came upon just opening the book. The first part was Newton's paw, was entitled Newton's paw. Newton is a dog. And Newton walks with his with the boy you can see in the picture through the slums, and a thorn comes into his paw, and all the trouble comes. That's a very touchy story, etc. But what really caught the eyes, the eyes, and won the hearts of the children is the green barrel. The green barrel you can see in picture on page number 4. The big green barrel next to the house. I had some children like Vincent here. Vincent, who was the kind of child who would just, sit silent. He would participate in a class or in an activity, but he wouldn't say a word. And here is Vincent, who refuses to go out for his break because he has to tell Spewy that this kind of barrel is very similar to a barrel they have next to their house. And I had Spewy and Vincent, and a similar situation, happening, around the whole class. Children actually discussing the architectural details from the course book, because that was something that reflected their reality, and it was just incredible. It's not the thing you can pass with words. You would have to experience this. Knowing a child who never speaks, knowing a child who's who's the first one to run out when the break comes, a child who actually decides to stay for the break in the class because of a big green barrel. I don't remember what details were so tender and so close to Spewy's heart, but we honestly had children discussing the pictures in the course book because they recognized their own life. They recognized the real situation, and I think it's worth remembering. what ignites the interest, what brings the interest of children. Because the new core curriculum, welcome back to Poland, the new core curriculum says that it doesn't specify that, you know, this particular kind of teacher is responsible for, you know, building up the national identity, bringing, you know, elements of history and national traditions to the class. Grades 1 to 3 are grades we are all responsible for you know, backwards and forwards within the curriculum. So we as English teachers, we also are in a way responsible for building up the, you know, the national identity, bringing the elements of history, you know, bringing the elements of national traditions. And please don't tell me that there's nothing we could talk about. I mean, just having a brief look at the map, just, you know, point your finger at random, and there are fantastic things happening here and there. It's just, you know, about opening your eyes, and, you know, when coming back from holidays, when coming back from a weekend friendly visit to friends, just bringing an item or two, bringing a story, bringing an object, bringing a postcard, and sharing it with your class. And that's as far as you have to go to fulfill the obligation, and so easily to marry it actually with the interest of your children, because you bring yourself to the class, and you bring also something that the children can recognize. Because if you go to Poznań and you bring, I don't know, the sweet cake of Poznań, right, rogale marcińskie, there are chances some children have already been there and they'll be willing to share. And they will be, you know, willing, you know, to share their stories, and that's a perfect opportunity for you to, you know, to teach some extra words like poppy seeds, icing, or whatever. So, so guys, here's the map of Poland with probably just the top attractions enumerated. Keep your eyes open. The holidays are coming. Just bring an extra, take an extra suitcase with you, and there'll be plenty and plenty of things to share. And this is the national identity. This is the tradition that you can so easily implement into the core curriculum. Somebody says, "I thought he has been branded according to the new history curriculum." You don't have to get, you know, you don't have to get with your first, second, or third graders into in-depth historical discussions. First of all, this might be beyond the linguistic possibilities. Secondly, sometimes it might be beyond our historical comprehension, I presume. Guys, and to show you yet one more trick or way of approaching the new core curriculum, which could help you to marry what you do in your English class easily with what happens in other classes, sort of to give your children the feeling of certain deeper planning or certain unison in between what happens at different times at school. So a question towards you: is there at least one book title you could give me? Book title, a book which is obligatory for children in grades 1 to 3 to read. What do children read these days? Or what should they read according to the core curriculum? Is there at least one title you could give me? There used to be Łysek z pokładu Idy when I was in the first or second grade. Somebody says Alice in the Wonderland, Dzieci z Bullerbyn. All right, everything comes with a question mark. So triple question mark, a single question mark. What do your pupils read? I mean, they read readers probably with you, all right? They read the text in the course book, fantastic. But what else do they read? What do they read when they don't have the classes with you? Kubuś Puchatek, somebody says, likely. Do we have any more guesses? All right, somebody has a son, all right, in the grade. O psie, który jeździł koleją. And all right, and Katarzyna says it's like my son read O psie, który jeździł koleją and was impressed. So thank you for the comment, Katarzyna. He was impressed by the read. Because here is the list of the obligatory readings for the new core curriculum. And some of the titles probably are, you know, at this moment say nothing to you. Some of them might be recognizable. But what's important is very often these stories deeply impress the children. But if they are so impressed by a story of a dog who traveled on trains, and if they discuss the story with one teacher, what should stop you as English teachers from taking those emotions, taking the knowledge of this story already, and exploiting it, or it's like giving it a second life in your class? Trains, dogs, happiness, grief, death. These are all things, and the vocabulary that the children become familiarized with when it comes to your classes. Why not to marry what they do with other teachers and why with what you do in your classes? So just just a tiny recommendation that if you don't know the name of the teacher who spends the rest of the day after the English class is over, go introduce yourself, shake hands, and ask a simple question: what are you working on at this moment? Is it a detective story? Is it a travel story? What do you do? What do you discuss when it comes to geography? Do you discuss any regions of Poland? Do you discuss, I don't know, any environmental issues? You can so easily take those elements, those topics already introduced to the class. Already, the class already knows them, and you can so quickly bring them into your English class. And I'm sharing what I'm showing to you right now is a poster we prepared for grade 1 to 3 teachers to start, introducing culture in the first grade. A fantastic pre-summer discussion about the potential summer destinations in Poland. What's more, starting is like if you work with New English Adventure, you'll notice that from level 2 there are extra culture classes built into the course. And all this to make sure that you again not only build students' linguistic knowledge and linguistic competences, but also to give you a chance to tick off on the list of core curriculum broader requirements. So, and the core curriculum says that zajęcia z języka obcego nowożytnego. So that's about us. That's about English teachers. That we should build curiosity, respect, openness towards other cultures, towards our own tradition, and also the ability to compare our own tradition and what we do, our habits, with the habits and traditions of other nations. And again, I think which just to inspire you to keep your eyes open when traveling this summer. So this is a thing I discovered when visiting Ostruda 2 weeks ago. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine that in Ostruda, each summer, they have national game cups competition. Do you remember yourselves playing game cups? So I remember actually it's like finding them, and it's like drawing the flags of different countries inside, and sometimes we wanted them more fluffy or puffy. So we would put, I know, some paper or some other object or some sponge underneath, and we would follow a certain path in the game cups. All right, and somebody says, I used to play it as a child. The cups were cyclists. Yeah, exactly. Międzynarodowy wyścig pokoju. That's something like this that we called it. So it is so simple actually to organize a game of cups with your children when they decide to be different. Just one of the ideas. You could decide to you could let your children choose what nationalities they are. You could draw a path on the pavement with chalk, or you could use again the lovely toilet paper actually, to make the path. And on the path there could be some gates. So whoever is passing is actually moving the cup through the gate. They have to say something about the nation they represent. So name of the capital, traditional food. They could, I don't know, give a name of an animal which is associated with the country. Really basically some simple things, which again, it's like you bring a game and you marry the game with some linguistic effort. So what we actually do, we still stick to the language area, but we stimulate our children to sort of go up in the Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy is again something that that you can see discussed in detail in the May webinar by Małgorzata Tiurka. So I wouldn't repeat myself. What you do is like you give your children a chance to take the language and not just to remember it, but to show that they understand it and that they can apply it. It's like I could dream about, you know, as high levels as analyzing, evaluating, and creating, but why not? If you can come up with ways to do so, why not? By the way, organizing such games, it's a perfect opportunity to actually fulfill or to meet one more requirement of the core curriculum. Namely, the core curriculum calls upon non-formal diagnosis and encourages you, or I don't want to say puts obligation on you, to actually keep students and their parents updated and, you know, informed on the progress they are making. It's about, you know, the clear and understandable feedback. And can you imagine a better feedback than a certificate coming from a competition in which you state that that the child mastered nationality names, food names, ability to ask about something, ability to say something. You can list the things, and then the child can get a certificate from you, and can actually go home with the certificate. If the idea sort of inspires you, I put on the screen a link to a fantastic blog by Amanda Davis. The blog is called primarystories.org. And on the 1st of June, Amanda actually discussed the idea of parental power and the several tricky ways for using certificates to keep your students motivated, informed, and also well behaved in the classroom. So because of the of the limited time, I'm just giving I'm pointing you in a direction. If you are intrigued, please go ahead and check the blog. Guys, I know that it's like I may be here, I may be all flying colors and wonderful stories, but you might be right telling me, okay, do this, do that, but still the new core curriculum says that finishing grade number 3, our children are supposed to be A1. Plus it is so with A1 level, what can I actually do? It's like, how far can I push my children? It's like I can push and push, but at certain, with what you've already told, it looks like, working with B1 or B2 students. Not necessarily. How far to push? Just to make sure that children remain within the zone of proximal development. You remember Vygotsky, who says that there is an area where children can perform really well without our help. There is another area where children wouldn't be able to perform at all, no matter how hard you push, because these are things they wouldn't be able to do. And on the slide you can see that the comfort zone, that would be when you would be, for example, asking children to write the letters of the alphabet. That's something the child can do easily. But the same child, when asked to write down their name, they would be helpless. They wouldn't be able to do it. So that's a task which is beyond the zone of the comfort. What would the zone of the proximal development be? The zone of the proximal development would be, the letters, well done. Here is how your name spells. Would you like to trace your name? So the zone of proximal development is as far as you can push. In other words, you have to come up with tasks which cognitively and linguistically are possible to be filled in with a bit of your help. And if you can come up with such tasks, then this is the kind of pushing that's not crushing, but which is stimulative, which is working to the benefit of your children. Just the last thing to recommend to you, in case you would like to double check whether what you have in mind is within the zone of proximal development of your kids. And we all know that CFR wasn't developed with young learners in mind. There is an amendment, or it's like an improved version or of CFR for children. That's Global Scale of English, learning objectives for young learners. That's a free material. That's in short terms that CFR for children, but far more detailed, far more specific, and giving you much better guidance as to what your students are expected to know, what they're expected to know in a moment, and what is definitely beyond their reach, even if you push very hard. If you go to www.english.com/GSE for Global Scale of English, you'll have a chance to download the whole PDF and to see how we match CFR levels, like this A1 that the new core curriculum quotes, how we match it with certain skills that young learners should be in possession of. All right, with us absolutely running out of time, just as a quick sum up, to me it looks like all the new core curriculum is asking you is actually being the good cook school. So you are English teachers and you are primarily responsible for bringing English to the classroom. But this doesn't mean that you are supposed to feed your 1, 2, and 3 graders just English. It's like you have to prepare, you are obliged to prepare a far better meal. So you are asked to take a bit of history, a bit of culture. You are asked to add a bit of pepper and salt taken from what children do outside their classes to actually serve them the kind of language meal that will make them hunger for more info about the world, hunger them for more in terms of learning about other nations, about learning the language itself. The MasterChef programs are very popular these days. So if you are a frequent watcher, you can from now on start thinking about yourselves in terms of classroom chefs. You are the ones to cook, and the quality of the final meal depends on you. If your class doesn't want to eat, it might mean that the ingredients weren't mixed, cooked, prepared properly enough. Does this make sense? Somebody says yes. Oh, that's good. Because, all right, somebody says absolutely. What a relief, because it does to me. So, guys, I know. You know what the Armenians say when they finish the fairy tales? They say 3 apples fell from the sky. 1 for the storyteller, so this is my apple. 1 for the listener, so guys, you deserve an apple. And 1 for the one who understood. So those of you who believe there was any sense or any inspiration in what I've just shared, please make sure you have 2 apples from me today. Thank you very, very, very much. All right, feel inspired. Take the new core curriculum as a recipe book or a bag of ingredients and start your cooking. All right, thank you very much. If there are any questions at this stage, please let me know. If there is any material you would like me to share with, you can see my contact email address. That's katarzyna.scibor@pearson.com. Please write to me. I would be, if there's anything I could share, anything I could re-explain, I would be more than happy to.